Welcome to the Army Empire Podcast, your go-to podcast for insightful tips on investment strategies, entrepreneurship, and all things money matters. Join Bernard Alerte, your guide on this journey to financial freedom. Each episode will dive into expert advice, practical strategies, and inspiring stories to help you take control of your financial future. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur or a seasoned investor, we've got something for everyone. So get ready to unlock your financial potential and make your money work for you. And now, let's welcome your host, Bernard Alerte.
Here we are again.
Hey, Liz, how are you doing?
How's it going, Bernard?
I'm really excited, really fired up by this incredible episode.
All right. I'm excited too. I know we saw each other this morning and we chatted a little bit, but you just sent me this topic. So as co-host, I'm really excited to take some notes. And, listen, I got my pen and paper ready. Hopefully those who are watching, I already see the numbers are going up. So please tell us where you're watching from. Are you here in Central Florida? Say hello. Here we go. We already got our first comment. Yes. Okay, people are coming in. Say hi. Show us the love. Put those money sign emojis or fire emojis if you're just really fired up about what you're about to learn today.
Yeah, absolutely.
How exciting. All right. Well, this is your show. Take it away. What you got for us?
Awesome, Liz. A couple of things I want to share. I just remember when I first started and kind of the financial field, right? And I remember going to a training. They were covering a lot of topics. And one of the things, there was this guy, every time he spoke, he always talked about the 5 rules of wealth, 5 rules of wealth. And it kind of stuck with me of the kind of things that we need to do and avoid for us to be wealthy, right? And I think back and I'm gonna go over some of those rules with you guys today, right? Just to share with you. Okay, and Liz is gonna pull it up.
Yes. Here we go.
What are some of the 5 rules of wealth, right? And the first rule of wealth that we have is something we call protect your assets, right? Which is kind of common sense. And if you think about what asset, if you ask an average person, what do you think is your most important asset? They might say, oh, my house or my car. But the most important asset you and I have is the fact that we make income for our families, right? And if that were to stop, everything stops. Because the reason you have a car, the reason you have your house, the reason you have everything you have is because your income. If your income goes away, then your family is going to struggle. So the first thing that we have to learn how to do is to protect our income. But how do you protect your income? There's a lot of ways you can protect your income. There's different products out there. For example, one of the ways is life insurance. Use that to protect your income. If God forbid something happens to you, that you can make sure your income goes to your family. And that's one of the first things you want to protect is your income. Because I want you to think about what happens to someone. Let's say someone's making $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year. And that money goes to pay for the bills, right? And if something happens to someone, God forbid someone passes away, the breadwinner, that $50,000, $60,000 stops coming into the family.
Right.
Exactly. But the family still has to live. You still have to pay the bills. You still have to pay your mortgage. See, your mortgage doesn't get cut in half because the breadwinner's not there no more.
It doesn't go away. It doesn't go away, right? So your rent doesn't get cut in half because all of a sudden, oh my God, no, it stays the same. Even the kids, they still have to eat. So those are the things that are so important for us to be able to make sure you have to protect our income. Okay. And that's one way to do it. Another asset you have to protect your home, of course. You have to make sure you have the right amount of homeowners insurance to make sure that's protected. That's the second biggest asset that you have. And for a lot of people, they never take the time to look at to protect that. Okay, to make sure that's protected. And a lot of times, sometimes they never, if you ask a person, what is your homeowner's policy? They don't even know what is that the homeowner's policy. Are you underprotected or are you overly protected? Maybe it might be much. Okay, so you have to kind of look at it. Someone that can actually guide and show you every line exactly what that means. So you know exactly if you have the right of protection. And I think a lot of people don't know whether they're under or over protected.
Exactly. They just know, okay, how much do I pay? And that's it. Even car insurance, right? They don't even know they have car insurance, but you never know, are you overly or underprotected, right? And you got to protect your ass, because here's what happens. Especially sometimes what happens to a lot of people, especially when it comes to these topics, here's what they do. They get the cheapest one. What's the cheapest one I need to get? right? And let me tell you, I know something very important, right, Liz? There's two things that you never get cheap. One thing is protection, any kind of insurance. You never want to get that cheap. The second thing is a parachute, right? Those are two things you never want to get cheap, right? Right. So it's so true. You have to make sure you protect that, have the amount of protection, because what's the cheapest thing I can get? Well, I want you to think about it. If something happens, God forbid, you go and get into an accident, right? And if you think about, we're in a country where everyone wants to sue everyone, right? You get offended, but oh, my neck hurts, right? And all of a sudden, right? And if you don't have the right of protection, guess what happens? They come after your assets.
Yep.
Right. And next thing you know, you work hard to get your home and you get sued. All of a sudden, they put a lien on your home. Next thing you know, boom, it's gone. You got to protect your assets. Make sure that's important. Another aspect that people never get a chance to protect is their retirement. They never get a chance to protect their retirement. Because think about most people, they actually build assets, they save and invest money for their future. But what happens is, if you think about, for most people, right, there's only three ways, right? If you think of back in the days, there's a three-legged stool, okay, of the retirement. Number one is pension. Back in the days, you had your pension for retirement, right? And also the second thing, you have Social Security. And the third thing is whatever your own savings, your retirement plans, 401k, IRAs you might have. So those are three kind of retirement plans most people have. But guess what happens? See, back in the days when our parents went to work, there was pensions. Now, most places don't have it. Unless you work for a city or the government, you don't have a pension. So that leg of the retirement plan is broken, right? And that's number one. It's out of there for a lot of people. The second leg is Social Security, okay? Average Social Security check is maybe $1,200, $1,800, right, for a lot of people. Because think about that, right? People are living so much longer now than they did back then. So right now, more people are paying. So a lot of people that are young right now, in 20s and 30s, they're actually paying into people that are retiring right now.
Yes. Wow. So true.
Exactly. So what happens if you think about that? If you can barely live on $1,200, $1,800 right now, how are you going to be able to live on that 10, 15, 20, 30 years down the line? It's kind of very limited. So the third is your own savings or retirement. So what happens is, when you build your retirement, you have to find a way how you got to protect it. You have to protect your retirement. You have to find ways to get some kind of products or options out there, or strategies out there, where you can have some kind of guaranteed income, where you'll be able to never run out of money. Because one of the biggest fears people have when it comes is running out of money.
Right.
The worst thing that can happen when someone retires is you actually run out of money. Imagine this: you've been working your whole life, and 20, 30, now you're 65, and now you have to retire. You're older. You really don't want to work. And all of a sudden, imagine you're 70, 75, 80 when you run out of money.
There's nothing left.
There's nothing left. So you have to make sure that you protect as you build your retirement, accumulate retirement. You have to protect it. Okay.
So those assets that you're talking about, you've mentioned three. You mentioned we need to protect our income, which is our salary. We need to protect our home, and we need to protect our savings or retirement.
Exactly. Those are things to protect. Because what do people protect? Most people rather protect the iPhone than protect their income. It's the craziest thing, right? You speak to people sometimes. Oh my gosh! Everyone has insurance on the iPhones. The iPhone costs, I don't know, $800 to $1,000. Oh my gosh! How you not have insurance on your phone? Well, just in case if you lose it, in case you say, but why would you have insurance on your phone, but you don't have insurance? Protect your income.
It's so eye-opening to hear you say that, because a lot of people don't talk about this stuff. And keep educating us, because that's the truth. Is there another asset?
I mean, those are the main. You can talk about a car, protect the car, things like make sure you have the right amount of protection in the car. Also, it's important. But those are the kind of main assets that most people have in general that you want to protect.
And we don't want to be cheap. We don't want to be cheap on that.
Never be cheap.
Protection and parachute.
Exactly. A parachute, you never want to get that cheap. Absolutely. Right.
That was good.
The second rules of wealth is debt is a cancer. And that seems kind of harsh. Like, oh my gosh, as you know, cancer is a terrible disease that affects. But if you think what a cancer does, cancer just attacks everything in your body. It's like a cell that just keeps attacking, and it's kind of spreads and attacks your whole body, right? But if you think what debt does, exactly the same thing. It attacks your wealth. It destroys your wealth. It destroys it, right? And if you think about it, I think the first episode, we talk about the rule of 72, how money compounds. We talk about, make sure, yes, if you can go back to the episode number 1, I want you to think about debt is like compound interest working against you, not for you, working against you, right? And I think that's so important. If you think about it, if average credit card debt out there, right? I'm gonna share some very powerful, right, Liz? I found out today, right? And I was doing some research on that today. In the U.S. right now, there's almost $1.2 trillion in credit card debt.
Yes, we found that out
today. One, not with a B, with a T. $1.2 trillion in credit card debt. And if you think most credit card is what? You're not paying 2% or 4% on it. You're paying 25, 18, 25% interest for an average person, right? And credit card debt. And let me tell you, and it's getting worse. Let me share with you how is compound interest working against you. Check this out. I did the research in 2014. The debt in the United States was $57 billion. It was $57 billion in 2014. 10 years later, it more than doubled.
That's crazy.
And let me tell you, one thing that did not double the past 10 years is incomes. Incomes did not double the past 10 years. Average income in the United States was like 57,000 in 2014, 2024, 72,000. So what do you think is happening? It's eroding people's life. It attacks every fiber. People lose sleep over debt.
Yes.
Right? People divorces over debt. People get stressed out over debt. People get sick over debt. People get high blood pressure. Everything. They lose their quality of life over debt. So we got to make sure that you get rid of debt. If someone has debt, get a strategy. Find a way to get rid. And there's different ways to get rid of debt. Right? But one of the best ways to get rid of debt is you have to accept that debt is a cancer. You have to say it's bad. It's never good to have debt. I know sometimes you hear a lot of podcasts out there. Oh, debt is good. Wealthy people use debt. Yes, that's if you think about that. I mean, you hear that sometimes, but that's for people that are millionaires and billionaires, not for an average person. It's not, because sometimes they say, oh, use debt. There's never a good time to use debt. In other words, right? But for example, you have to make sure you get rid of it. For an average person, if you make between 25, 30, 50,000, couple $100,000 a year, middle income family, you need to get rid of that. You need to find a game plan to get rid of it, right? It's better to have no debt than any kind of debt. Never. It's never good to have debt. Is it people say, oh man, it's better to have a mortgage, right? Because think about it. Someone's paying $2,000, $3,000 a mortgage. I'd rather take that money, invest that money. Right? You get a better rate of return. So you got to get rid of debt. You have to find, if you have debt, and there's different strategies to get rid of debt. But one of the best ways to get rid of debt is we're going to do a lot of different podcasts about that in the coming weeks, right? Talk about specific each of these topics. One of the things that you want to accumulate money. One of the biggest mistakes that people make when they're trying to get rid of debt, they take all their money and get rid of debt. But guess what happens? As soon as you get an emergency, guess what happens to your debt? It goes right back up. So one way to get rid of debt is to save and accumulate money. One way is to save and accumulate money. You have to do it congruently with that. Because if you don't do that, guess what happens? Emergencies happen. You get rid of debt, and a couple months later, a year later, you're right back into it.
Right.
So you use congruent. And we're going to talk a lot of those strategies, how to do that, right?
Ooh, I can't wait till we get to those other episodes where you dig deep and we get into the meat of this that we're talking about. And looking at debt. A quick little shout out to everyone who's watching and those who are making comments. I see your wife's on here, which I'm going to get with her because soon we're going to be going live on Instagram as well when we set up the Army Empire page on Instagram. And you have a few folks on here. I see Robert Brown is also watching. He's watching from Point Siena. Thank you all so much for joining us. Let's go to the next one.
The third one is we call pay yourself first. Pay yourself first. And it's crazy. When I went over the first episode, one of the things I went over is the pie, where out of 100 people that work, 36% still working, 54 flat broke, 4% are okay, 1% is wealthy, out of 5% are able to make it. Let me tell you, if I can pinpoint one thing that every person that ends up getting on the right side of the equation, the 5%, is one, it's very simple. Pay yourself first. What does that actually mean, Liz? Right? And here's what most of us do. As soon as we get paid, you pay this person, you pay rent, you pay mortgage, you pay credit card, you pay this, you pay that, you pay that, you pay that, and whatever's left afterwards, you try to save. But guess what? There's usually nothing left afterwards, right? So one of the key points you want to do before you pay anybody is you gotta pay yourself first. So as soon as you get paid, take 10%, even 20, any amount of money, put something, and you put a bill. Put a bill on yourself, right? Liz Kroll Inc., right? You pay yourself first. Wherever you are, put a bill and pay yourself first. And if you start doing that, and if you increase over a period of time, you'll be surprised how much you'll accumulate. And it's just the right mindset to have, because a lot of people, they don't do that, okay? Right. Here's one thing I'll tell you. Listen, it's very contradictory, but listen, imagine you pay your Visa, MasterCard bill on time for 20, 30, 40 years. And you say, man, Visa, MasterCard, I've been such a good customer. I've been paying you on time I've been paying over that for past 20, 30, 40 years. Now I need money to save retirement. Can you help me out? They're not helping you out, right or wrong, right? As a matter of fact, they're going to put you on hold with no music, right? Put you on hold. Hold on, ma'am. And that's it. You got to pay yourself first. Pay yourself first, right? And that's the number 3. Number 4.
That's it.
We talked about. You have to be an owner, not a loaner, right? Be an owner and not a loaner. And that's something that's so important, right? I mean, it sounds common sense, right? To be an owner now, absolutely. Because the Bible talks about you're supposed to be head, not the tail. You're supposed to be the lender, not the borrower, right? And one thing, you want to be an owner. And let me tell you something. If you ask the average person, is it better to own your car or rent your car? They say own your car. Right? Is it better to own your house or rent your house? It's better to own your house. But think about that, right? We're taught middle income to own their car, own their home, but one thing we don't own is our income.
Ooh.
Is it
mic drop?
Yes, right? Is it better to own your income or rent your income? Like, what does that mean? Let me tell you what renting your income is. For most people, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Most people, you go to work 40, 50 hours a week. So you're renting your time. And guess what happens? You're getting a paycheck, right? And you're renting your time and you get what? A paycheck. You keep renting and you get a paycheck. Just like if you rent your home, right? If you rent your home, as long as you pay, you stay.
So
right?
Good.
And when you stop paying, you stop staying, right or wrong, right?
Own your income. Love that.
Yes, you got to own your income. So what is, because most people, they rent your income. You rent, then guess what happens? You have to keep doing it. What is owning your income? Okay, owning your income, just like you own your home. When you own your home, you have to start paying a little bit, right? But eventually, when you start paying, guess what happens? You get leverage. Eventually, you can own that income. That income keeps passing on to you. You can have income coming in. So one thing you have to is own your income. I don't know. There's not anyone I know that became wealthy that just rented their income away. They own their income, right? And that's something so important. You have to find a way to own your income, right? And the 5th one, right? Which is kind of
this is the one I was looking at for the past, since you sent me this slide. I was like, what is he gonna? What? Okay, he's gonna need to explain that.
Absolutely. Once I heard that, I was like, what? The guy said you have to find a way to work 100 hours a day. And first time I heard, I was like, okay, hold on, this guy's crazy. I mean, there's only 24 hours in a day, right? And nobody wants to even want to work 24 hours. Imagine working 100 hours. Here's what most of us have, right? If you think about that, right? What's the one thing you and I want, but we just don't know how to express it? Every single one of us, we want something called have a great quality of life.
Yes.
Every single one of them. You see, I want a great quality of life, but there's only 2 things that determine your quality of your life. One thing is your time and money.
Mm-hmm.
It's time and money. That's the only thing that determines your quality of life. Now let's look at different scenarios out there. There's a lot of people that have what? They have a lot of time on their hands, but they just don't make enough money.
Correct.
Right? That's one category. But there's a lot of people, they make a lot of money, but they have no time on their hands. Mm-hmm. They're working 60, 70, 80, 90 hours a week sometimes.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of people, which is not good, but it's just a reality. They have no time and no money, right? They're busy all the time, but they're still living paycheck to paycheck, not getting ahead, right? See, where you and I can have a chance to have the best quality of life is when you have a lot of time on your hands and you're able to make enough money. But the only way that you and I will be able to do that is if we leverage our time correct, where we find a way to train up. For example, how much a person can work a day, 10, 15, 20 hours a day, right? And let me use an analogy so people can understand what I'm saying and more like in basic terms. If you think about Amazon, right? Amazon, the biggest company out there is Amazon. Now, how much does Amazon make per thing they buy, they sell? Pennies.
Yeah.
They make pennies on everything, pennies on each. But guess what happens? There's millions and maybe billions of things being sold on Amazon every day. So they're making pennies on everything that's being sold. Here's the best thing for us to kind of bring it home, right? If you think about it, once you get good at doing something, what most people do, they don't know how to scale their income. Here's what they do. They make money and they never develop other people to copy what they do. You never train. See, there is no success without a successor.
Yeah.
There's no success without a successor. See, once you get good at doing something, you have to learn how to train, develop other people how to do it right. So guess what happens? Once I get good at doing something, my objective right away, Liz, is to make sure I either train, if I train 5 people, right, and I can get them to work 20 hours a day, I'm working, guess what? I'm working 100 hours a day indirectly. If I get 10 people to work 10 hours a day, I'm working 100 hours a day indirectly, right? And if I train, let's say 20 people to work 5 hours a day, I'm working 100 hours direct, because even if I get pennies, but I'm working 100 hours a day directly, or 50 people to work 2 hours a day. But the best thing, I want to get 100 people to work 1 hour a day. Why is that?
That's crazy.
Business sense, that makes sense. If you ask an average person, do you think it's better to train 10 people to work 10 hours a day or 100 people to work 1 hour a day? They might say, well, I'd rather have 10 people because that's less. Because yes, but if I get 10 people to work 10 hours a day, right, Liz? Let's say one of these people, something happens to them. They quit, or they get sick, or they have challenges. Guess what happens? That's 10% of my income that drops. That I lose. Let's say 2 of them. That's 20%. Right?
Yo, that's crazy. This mindset shift that needs to happen with what you're saying is amazing.
Exactly. But if I can get 100 people to work 1 hour a day, guess what happens? If 1 or 2, guess what? Drops out or something, or they quit or something happens, guess what happens? I only lose 1% or 2% of my income. Right. And if you think about on top of that, let's say if I wanted to double my income, right? If I have 10 people working 10 hours a day, can I possibly get those 10? Right? So how many can I tell? I need you. I want you to work 10 more hours. That's not going to happen. Or I'm going to find 10 superstars, right, to work 10 hours a day, right? That's even more work. But if I have 100 people work 1 hour a day, I can talk every 100. Listen, can you guys give me 1 more hour? Just 1 more hour.
Right.
Can you give me 1 more hour? It's easier for me to get 100 people to give me 1 more hour a day than to get 10 people to give me 10 hours a day. And I can double my income. And once I learned this, it made so much sense. It made so much sense. And that's the one thing that most of us never get a chance to educate on. We're not taught that. And because of that, we end up, that's why you have so many people, they're working so hard, but never getting ahead, right? Because sometimes they're in the wrong vehicle. And that's why we have to kind of shift our mindset to make sure we invest a lot of times. We're able to be able to leverage our time, so be able to be wealthy. Makes sense?
You're talking to us. Yeah, you're talking to us for sure. You're preaching this because I'm thinking the same thing here as our friend here who just commented. This is making so much sense because when you first look at it and read it, you think this only going to work hours a day, but the way you put it is when you have and have other people and stay and have control of things. When we start training people to we gotta look at ourselves, do it ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's you're absolutely right, Liz. And those are kind of 5 concepts, 5 rules that a lot of people, for example, never get a chance to get educated on. And once I understood it, and it took me a while to get it. It really took me a while to get it. I fought it so much. I was like, really, really. But once I understood it, and you started working towards that, and trust me, it makes so much sense. So, and we're gonna have so many different topics. We're gonna invest so much time next couple of weeks to kind of cover each of these topics on how can I say it, on a specific, get more details, more nuggets, right? Specifically that people average person can use and can get themselves on track for them to be able to be able to take advantage of all the great things out there. And I think back, everyone talks about, you ever heard the saying, what you don't know doesn't hurt you, right? Everybody hears that all the time. That's everybody says it. But let me tell you something, when it comes to your money, when it comes to wealth, what you don't know will definitely hurt you. So knowledge is power.
So good. This is an awesome episode. I can't wait to continue more from you.
Absolutely. Listen, I'm so excited. I just want to thank you so much, Liz, for the tireless effort that you put in to make this podcast work. And we are grateful to everyone that's watching. We are totally excited what's happening. We're looking to having great more insight and great more content next couple of weeks. So everyone subscribe, press like, right? You can actually click notify when we go live, so you can actually get a notification and be able to get on. And if we get 100 people to we're able to launch live on Facebook also.
Thanks so much. I do have technical now.
Yes.
Thanks for tuning in to the Army Empire podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget. Thanks for tuning in to the Army Empire podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it with your friends. Join us next week for another exciting edition, and until then, keep building your empire. Thanks for tuning in to the Army Empire. Thanks for tuning in to the Army Empire podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it with your friends. Join us next week for another exciting edition, and until then, keep building your empire.
Screaming.
Yes.
Look, there you go, says Papa. He's like, hi, Papa. Say hi, Papa.
Hi, Kobe.
He's right there. Okay. Now we're gonna say goodnight because we're gonna go to bed. Say goodnight. Yes, we have to say goodnight. What? Yes. Did you just roll your eyes